Hi, this is Greg Johnson with Blue Book Services, and I'm joined today by Wendy Reinhardt Capsack, who is CEO of the Produce for Better Health Foundation. Now, Wendy, it's great to talk to you, but unfortunately, I should be seeing you in person right about now because this should have been the start of your annual Consumer Connection Conference. So that is kind of a bummer. I feel bad about that, but I know PBH is doing some great things this spring and especially during this pandemic, some things that you had set in motion before all this craziness. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you have planned as far as promoting produce with consumers right now.
Yeah, thanks so much. I agree with you. It would have been great to be in person, and it was unfortunate that we needed to cancel our Consumer Connection Conference, but it was the right thing to do. And for an organization that is focused on health, it was absolutely the right thing to do. So, but we look forward to an epic 2021 Consumer Connection Conference. How about that? PBH is doing what it does best, which is promoting and protecting produce every single day of the year. And I would say we've definitely ramped up our efforts and adjusted our efforts to be that hopeful, inspirational, timely resource, trusted resource that consumers are looking for right now. So, like many, we absolutely had, a COVID resource page, and we connected to other, very well-informed and other trusted agencies. We also, though, connected people to consumer-facing influencers so that they had advice, right? We actually saw a huge uptick in our web traffic and on that page specifically. So again, the page included some industry nods for sure. It also included the typical resources, particularly around, food safety was a big one. And then we have this arsenal of influencers, right? That program is a full year old now, as is Have a Plant. And they were ready to go to provide context to consumers on not just food safety, but on the many health and well-being benefits of produce, for example, including immunity and better mood. And both of those are playing really well.
One of the things that has been specifically talked about this spring is PMA's Joy of Fresh consumer campaign. And I know they mentioned PBH specifically and some partnership. Can you explain a little bit more what's involved with that?
One of the other things that we're seeing in our, what I would call our comprehensive digital ecosystem right now, these consumer facing assets, in addition to these influencers, is we're really seeing that Have a Plant and all the work and investment that the industry put into that, it's paying off right now. And so this idea that Have a Plant is rooted not just in food and nutrition science, where I think a lot of folks would say, well, that's where PBH stops, is it's also rooted in behavioral science. And this idea, our tagline that we have too, food rooted in a better mood, okay? And so we see now that all of that is really, and the community that we've established, it's really working for us in terms of emotions. How do we do that? Well, it's addressing a lot of emotions. Fear is an emotion, and it's a powerful one. And so how do we provide context and fear? Or another keen emotion is disgust. And so an example of that is it takes one cockroach to ruin a bowl of fruit, let's say, and it takes 10 times a boatload of produce to combat that one moment, right? So we're using emotion to our benefit right now. And it includes what might be perceived as negative emotions. And so we have a whole series to help influencers understand the power of emotion, even an emotion like that, and how to overcome that. It's also talking about the emotions associated with hope and pride, and the idea that consumers are actually cooking more for their families. And what we see is the digital currency that's going on out there, it's working to our benefit because people are wanting to share and inspire each other with new ideas. They're also having fun, right? And so humor and levity, these are other types of emotions that we can tap into. When you talk about joy and the joy of fresh, we see joy as another important emotion that is essentially an extension of this Have a Plant platform in many ways. And so joy, whether it's through, in this case, fresh produce, namely joy is often associated with fruit. It absolutely can be associated with vegetables too. and fresh flowers. Now we're tapping into emotional experience that is also, it's not singular, but the idea that we're taking a singular emotion and trying to envelop an experiential moment with food and maybe also with flowers, that is something that can also spur people to want to repeat a specific behavior, like increasing their consumption of fresh fruit, for example. So we see the Joy of Fresh as a clear extension of the work and what we've been doing now for a year. And we're excited to partner with PMA and co-create maybe some resources that really bring those two things together.
It seems to me like the work you've done as far as social media wise and technologically really pays off in a situation like this, where so many people are stuck in their homes and having to connect with their loved ones via media instead of in person. Do you feel like that's kind of been an extension of where PBH had been headed the past couple years that you've been in charge?
Oh, for sure. I mean, right away, we said as a staff, for example, we were going to be going virtual. And there was no reason for an organization like us to be in one location. And certainly we wanted to, if you look at how we then have like ambassadors, for example, these influencers, extension of our brand, they need to be everywhere. We need to have tentacles when it comes to consumption everywhere and partnerships like PMA and the Joy of Fresh. We need to create a 360-degree view of consumption. And so that we don't want to be limited to one space, right? And so digital has no boundaries. It has no boundaries even here in the United States. So if you talk to example for Lori Taylor, the Produce Moms, and how the work that she's doing and many of our ambassadors, it's reaching outside of the United States. So the concept of digital and leveraging digital as a way to be efficient, particularly in communications, like team like ours internally, it's working on our benefit. It allows us to have more resources to apply to important programs. Then if you look at enhancing a digital ecosystem like ours and then leveraging the influencer space of others and their communities, I would say since since the Have a Plant movement was born, we just looked at this stat. Since that movement was born this week, last year, and through December, for example, just 5 months in, 6 months, 7 months, we reached more than 52 million Americans. So there's something there. And in a moment like this, when people are looking for creative ways to reach their friends and family and or to inspire, in this case, consumers, and connect with them emotionally, Have a Plan in our digital ecosystem and all our partners, it's a winner. It's a winning combination for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I love how you keep bringing up with connecting emotionally, because a lot of the pushback we're seeing is fear and emotional response and being unsure. And there's just so much of that right now when the news seems to change every single day, and we're we're not around some people we love, and we're around too much some others, ones who live in our house. Emotion is a perfect way to connect with that.
Yeah, people are craving connection, and they crave connection on emotional level. And so whether that is within this industry, outside of it, consumers, employees, people want to feel connected. When we think about the breadth of emotions that we have, they are really the stuff of life. Emotions are the stuff of life. And so if we can be authentic in those communications and tap into that emotional need that consumers have, then we really can create some lasting relationships, creating these fruit and veggie loving consumers.
That's a great message. And I'm very disappointed that I'm not looking at you in person in Scottsdale, Arizona, in a fancy hotel, and all of the rest of our PBH supporters.
And the food and eating good food, plant forward, great food. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll just have to make do from our home offices in the meantime.
We will. Tell me what you're having for dinner tonight, and then we'll go from there.
All right. It will have fruits and vegetables.
Have a plan. Here's the plan, right?
Oh, yeah.
Have a plan.
Okay, Wendy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Greg. Take care.